Thank you so much, Theo, for joining us today at the Dwelling Show. We really appreciate your time. I know you're busy, so thank you so much for joining us.
Yep, thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
To a conversation.
Sweet. Okay. Yeah. So Theo is a real estate investor, a good friend of mine. He just actually closed on a 12 unit. He blogs about real estate. He is also the host of the Unplugged podcast, a video or vlog, shall I say, on YouTube. Theo, I'm sure you can do a better job than I can. Let us know, what you're doing right now and how that's going.
So about a week ago, I just closed on 12 units. So it was actually 3 different properties. There's 3 fourplexes for a total of 12 units. So that's what I'm working on right now. Kind of going through the transition period of taking over the properties, getting rent set up for tomorrow, introducing myself to all the residents, figuring out kind of what we're going to do for updates and increasing rents and things like that. So that's kind of what I've got going on now. I had initially gotten into real estate I think I bought the first property in 2015 in February. So I don't know like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And I was a duplex, and I kind of bought that house hacked, kind of similar to what you're doing, and sat on that for a year and then ended up selling it. Kind of going back and at the time I sold it because I was kind of, to be honest, a little freaked out about the whole prospect of being a landlord, and I just wasn't prepared. But when I go back and rationalize it, I tell myself that I sold it because I wanted to know what the process of selling a property was like, so I can get, I can see it from all different sides and angles. So that's what I'm at right now.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction. So I kind of want to dig in a little bit deeper before, you bought your duplex, before, your 12 unit. So, why real estate? And more specifically, why did you actually choose multifamily as the asset class in which you want to invest in? And before you also answer that, I mean, why are you doing this just full time? Why are you not having a 9-to-5 job?
So I guess I'll take one question at a time. So why real estate? Back in January 2015, I was hanging out with a couple of friends who are a little bit older than I was. I think they're maybe 4 or 5 years older than I am. And we all worked at the same corporate company. And we were kind of I don't know how the topic came up, but the topic came up that they both owned duplexes, and that I remember them saying specifically that they forget they have the duplexes until they get paid, once a month. I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. Like, that's not how my job is. That's not how anything I do or anything I've ever done has been like. You just get paid and you just don't even realize what you're getting paid for. It sounds awesome. So literally it was a little bit more than that. We talked back and forth, and they gave me information of the agent they used and kind of the areas they invest in, but like very, very like basic information. Like they were like, yeah, this place is good. I was like, all right, I trust you. And so the next day I reached out to the agent, and I went to the office, and we kind of talked, and she explained, what it is that she does. And again, I'm like totally fresh to real estate, so everything is novel and new. And I just I'm like, okay, yeah, it sounds great. So she set me up on the MLS for the specific area in Cincinnati that I wanted to invest in at the time. And literally that night, a property comes up, a duplex for sale for $170, and I email her and say, hey, let's go see this property. And we go there, and I'm kind of looking around. I'm like, I guess this is like what I'm supposed to buy, according to my friend. And so I put in an offer, and the first house I looked at is the house that I bought. So that's how I got into real estate. Why real estate? I guess similar to the reason I selected real estate is because of the fact that I can make money without necessarily having to do anything. So that's why I did it initially. Obviously now, moving forward, you realize that it's a little bit different than just that. And then why I don't do the 9-to-5 job. I actually had three jobs in 3 years out of school, and I kind of realized that it just, the corporate world just wasn't going to work for me. For a lot of reasons we can get into if you want to, but it just obviously wasn't working because I kept, I get the new job, and then I have that, new experience, exciting experience when you first, get on the job and you're going through training and meeting everyone. And then they kind of like would peak and I'd plateau, and then it kind of like, you know, go down, and I'd be like, all right, like I can't imagine myself doing this for forever. And then so I'd leave, like, oh, maybe it's just the industry's wrong. And so I go to a new industry, and then the same thing would happen again. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe I didn't give the first industry a chance. So I went back to the first industry for another year, and then it kind of got to the point where I realized I was just kind of spinning my own wheels, and it just wasn't going to work. And around that same time, I was kind of doing some things for Joe Fairless, and I'm sure your listeners know who he is. And I was kind of helping him out for free, working on, I think, like his newsletter and his YouTube channel. And then I ended up quitting my job, and we can get into the details of that if you want to. And then, like, I think it was like within a week, Joe offered me a full-time position, and I've been doing that with Joe, and then I've been doing my real estate stuff ever since.
Awesome. So yeah, we definitely want to, you know, dig into that. There's a lot of content packed in there. So let's try to kind of unpack that a little bit. So you basically, you know, come to a conclusion that it was time to actually make the jump from that 9 to 5 to just doing real estate full time. So your case is a little bit different because you actually still work, you know, I guess a job in real estate, but it also gives you that opportunity to actually do what you like, right? So if you can just kind of go a little bit deeper into, you know, as to how you made that transition, and, you know, when did you get to that point when you said, I can just quit my 9 to 5 now, this is the time?
So again, my situation is a little bit unique just because I majored in chemical engineering, and so actually all three of the jobs that I got, literally what they did is they went and looked at what the average chemical engineering salary was, and then just kind of gave that to me as my salary at all three jobs. So obviously the chemical engineering salary is pretty high. So I was very fortunate and very lucky to get paid the way I got paid. So I was actually able to have enough money to quit my job and like survive for 6 months. And so I had 6 months worth of expenses in my bank account. So I told myself, all right, you got 6 months to kind of figure it out. So if you don't do anything for 6 months, then you'll be able to survive. But if you get another job, or if you get in real estate, or if you do whatever, you've got 6 months of resources left over. And so, but in all honesty, that necessarily wasn't the main reason why. That was kind of just they kind of gave me maybe that last boost, or maybe that was like the cherry on top to make me quit. But it kind of just got to the point where I just was fed up, and I kind of realized, I've got one life, and do I really want to spend it, complaining all the time about how much I don't like my job? And do I want to spend it, because like I did a sales job, so I was basically driving around all the time. So I'm just driving, for 5 hours a day and getting maybe an hour of FaceTime with customers. And it's just I kind of came to the conclusion that something I really didn't want to do. One thing that really helped me is I wanted to make sure that I wasn't quitting for the wrong reasons, right? I didn't want to quit because I was just running away from something. I wanted to quit because I was running towards something. And so literally what I did is I took out like a spreadsheet and just wrote out, like, I kind of had like 2 quit or 2 stay in 2 different columns, and wrote out all my reasons and rationalizations and justifications for each. And I kind of reviewed them and saw which ones were actually, number one, truthful, because some of them were lies, to be honest. And then which ones were so which ones were truthful, and then which ones I guess just made the most sense long term, had the most long term impact. But I can tell you, it was very difficult, and I wanted to quit ever since I started. So it took 3 years to do it. And again, I think what finally pushed me over the edge was writing it all out, and then kind of realizing that I trusted myself to be resourceful enough to kind of just figure it out, and then also realize at the end of the day I could go back to working in the corporate world if I had to. Gotcha.
So the big thing, most people talk about, if they want to make that transition, it's not just, can I afford this? Do I have enough money in reserves to help myself through a 6 month or a year period? But it's also fear, right? Fear of the unknown. So since you've already, kind of gone through this transition and you're actually living on that other side now, what would you say to someone, just thinking, well, I'm just really scared, right? I'm just fearful of not getting that 2-week paycheck. What would you say to them?
I would say, and this is just my opinion. This is just how I kind of look at it. I would say that no matter what, you're going to have that fear. And so once you leave the other side, like it's like right now you're in your full-time job and you think, oh, like once I quit, everything's gonna be perfect. I've made it to the promised land and the grass is green on the other side and everything like that. And then so that's like it's like where you're at right now is kind of like your baseline. Then the other side, the quitting and being a full-time investor is like this just dream, this super high level feeling. And so then you'll quit. And you're afraid to kind of make that leap. But then once you quit and make that leap, then it's gonna be something else above you that you're gonna be afraid of. And then once you get to that point, it's gonna be something more, and you're gonna constantly be afraid of things. So would you rather be afraid and working for someone else, or be afraid and kind of doing your own thing and being in at least more control than you were before? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I really like that.
I guess basically high level, no matter what, you're gonna be afraid. And so what do you want to be afraid of? You want to be afraid of, a little ant, or do you want to be afraid of a giant tiger?
Huh. I like that. That's really good. That's really good. So, the other thing I kind of want to go back to real quick before we get to the first deal is you mentioned that you were talking to some friends at work and they talked about how they had a duplex, but they never remembered it until they got the paycheck, which is, pretty what real estate could be sometimes if you get a really good building, right? You just get the paycheck. Yeah. I'm living proof. So I can relate. But my question to you is, so you basically heard that wisdom, right? You got the seed of wisdom, you swallowed it, and obviously in your case, you actually blossomed, and you basically bought a duplex pretty quickly after you got that wisdom, right? People speak to me all the time about buying a building, but sometimes they don't take the action necessary to actually buy a building. So how did you go about from, when you heard about that wisdom to actually buying the duplex? I mean, how did you go about doing that? What made that happen for you?
So that's a very good question. And if I knew the answer to that, I'd probably have a lot more properties than I do now. Well, I mean, I kind of just look at it as just kind of it's kind of a combination of luck. It's mostly luck, I would say. I mean, it's just being in the right place at the right time. Like I kind of look back and I think of all the different kind of all different pieces that need to be put in place in order for me to be in that room at that moment with those two people talking about their properties, and all the stars that had to align on their end for them to be in the room with me too and to buy other properties. And so, it's really funny because I look back and I know like one huge moment in my life that was like a huge break in the path towards where I'm at right now. And at the time it seemed so minimal. But I remember I was sitting in the parking lot in college at my job I had in college, and I was sitting there and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. If I was going to graduate early, or if I was going to stay and go 5 years, if I was going to take this job that I got my one offer on, or I wanted to join the military at the time. And I remember sitting there in the car and was like, all right, so here's what I'm going to do. I've got the military people supposed to contact me. I've got these job people supposed to contact me. Whoever contacts me first is what I'll do. And sure enough, the job happened to contact me, and I got that job. And that kind of brought me to Cincinnati, had me, invest in real estate. I met Joe, I met my girlfriend, and kind of all these things aligned based off of that one decision. And then, if I go back from there, a ton of different things had to happen for me to get to that point. And so whenever I look at it from that perspective, I kind of realize it's mostly just luck and being at the right place in the right time. But, kind of as you said, you can get lucky and have that seed of wisdom planted in you and not take action on it. But again, I really do think that a large portion of the reason why I took action on it is because just at that moment, I was like just motivated to do something. If you had caught me maybe a day later, I wouldn't have done it because I was, sad about something or, hungover or whatever. And so it was kind of just things that line up, and you have to just take advantage of opportunities as they arise and just hope that you're in the right state of mind to actually do that. So, because again, that's a very important question. What separates a person that does invest in real estate from the person that doesn't invest in real estate? Again, I think it has to do with a lot of luck, and then I guess you could say like willpower too, and just kind of just doing it. And that's really the only advice that I could give is that if an opportunity presents itself and you have the resources to at least have a 1% chance of being successful, then kind of what do you have to lose? Why not just try it? Why not just take a chance? And I think one thing, at least from my perspective, that I do a lot is I try to self-sabotage myself in a very strange way. And so, for example, I will, I just bought these 12 units, and I'll kind of tell myself, okay, I've got to do this today. I got to go over there and trim the bushes and mow the lawn. And I'm just like, oh, but what if I just did it tomorrow? Or what if I just didn't do it? Do I really need to mow the lawn? Or the bush is that bad? Or do I really need to go over there and vacuum? And by me not doing those things, it is self-sabotage, because it's not going to be a good experience for the residents, and the residents might want to leave. The property's being dirty. If I have new residents coming in, they're like, oh, this place is a dump. I don't want to live here. So little tiny things like that. This is a small example of me just like something inside me not wanting to do that. But it was like, Theo, just do it. That once you do it, and you come back 2 hours later sitting here, you're going to feel very accomplished and you're going to feel good. And so just kind of just do it. And I think another piece of advice I can give is just those really, really small things like that, like very, very small things, like those small wins. You can stack them on top of each other so that it builds up momentum. I know I'm kind of rambling here, but something else that comes to mind, because I've got my monitor right here. I've got these little Post-it notes, and I was listening to one of Trump's speeches that was given to those Boy Scouts, and whatever you think of the guy, or the listeners, I'm not really too concerned about, but he was giving a speech, and he was talking about why he was successful, and he kept talking about momentum. Like you have to build momentum. And it's like those really small victories. It's not like the big, buying a massive, from his perspective, buying a big commercial building that is like the key win. It's the small, tiny little steps along the way that build up momentum until you can buy a single family house and a duplex and a fourplex and an 8 units and a 16 unit. And then it kind of builds and builds and builds until you're buying apartment complexes. And you'll hear people on podcasts that buy apartment complexes like, oh, wow, I couldn't do that. Like, how do they do that? There's no way I could ever do that. But that same person, you may not know it, you don't necessarily see it in that moment in time, but 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, they were just like you, probably at their corporate job, afraid to quit, or they were just like me, afraid to go over to the property to mow the lawn. So it's all about, I think, taking those small little steps and building on that and building the momentum. And then eventually, I think that when these opportunities kind of come, you'll just have trained yourself to automatically take advantage of them. Whereas at first, it takes a lot of time to actually build up that momentum. So that's like a long way to answer that question. But
no, I think that's amazing to you. I mean, there's a lot in there. There's a lot in that answer. So you were having a conversation with your friends at work. Then you took action, acquired your first duplex, your house act. So can you tell us? We kind of know how you found that deal was through a realtor, but could you please tell us the numbers and how did that work out for you before you actually dispose of that property?
So the first deal, it was a duplex in Oakley, which is, if you know Cincinnati at all, it is at the time it was up and coming. Right now it's come and it's here and it's flourishing. And there's other areas now that we're looking at that are the new Oakleys. But at the time, it was list price of $170. It wasn't a dump. The property, it wasn't gross or dirty. It was just very, very outdated. And so I went in there and I bought it with a owner-occupied loan, so 3.5% down, which was like I think it was like only like $5,500, something like that, which is crazy. And I went in there, and at the time I didn't know about the construction loan, so I paid the construction loans out of pocket, which equated to about $25,000. And so I had $30,000 total in the property, and I got that money from a little mutual fund that my parents had set up for my college that I didn't use, and so I got to use that $30,000 to buy that property. So I was in it all in for about $205, and I rented out the top unit for $1,400, and then I was supposed to live in the bottom unit, and I did live for a little bit, but a lot of things happened where I just couldn't live in it, and so I rented that unit out for $1,200. So I was getting $2,600 a month from a all-in of $205,000 and a down payment of about $30,000.
Oh, wow. So you were I'm just doing the calculation here. So from a rent to value perspective, you were kind of at like 1.2%. So
something like that.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. So at what point did you, yeah, I know you said you basically sold it. So at what point did you think, it's time to sell?
Oh, literally for the entire year, I was like a ball of nerves. I remember my girlfriend. She used to live like right across the street at the time. And I remember whenever I went over there, I'd like look at the property. I'd like always joke like, all right, let's go drive by the property, see if it's still standing, or let's go drive by the property and make sure the roof hasn't caved in. Like I was freaking out constantly. I don't know why. I don't know why I was. And so for the entire year, I was freaking out. And so I was like, I have to get rid of this thing because I bought it. I bought it wrong, and I just I don't know what it was, but I just feeling that at any moment something can go completely wrong. And so I wanted to sell it and get a good chunk of change so I could upgrade and buy fourplexes. I kind of did some calculations and realized that fourplexes were the way that I wanted to go because number one, there's 4 units versus 2, and so I can buy 4 units for the same price that I can buy 3 units. I can buy 2 units. I can buy 1 unit. And then also, since it's 4 units, I can still get a residential loan. So I don't have to worry about getting a commercial loan with a 5-year, basically like a 5-year loan. And I think the lender I was looking at was 25-year amortized. The payments would be higher. And I didn't want to have to change my interest rate in 5 years from now because they're so low right now. I just can't imagine them not go. I can't imagine going lower. I mean, maybe they'll stay the same, maybe they'll go up, but I don't think they're going to go down.
Right.
Maybe they do. I don't know. But I want to just lock in long-term debt on fourplexes, and that's kind of the strategy I have now.
Awesome.
But I sold it for. I actually just randomly listed it for like I can't remember what I listed it for, but I listed it for like a really high price, and they went under contract instantly, but it didn't appraise out, and so I ended up making. I think I walked away with like 30 grand at the table, so I guess I got my initial equity back on top of all the cash flow I made while I owned it for the years. I maybe made like a couple grand on the property.
Okay. So I'm guessing you use the proceeds for that for the next deal, which is the 12 unit that I just can't wait to talk about.
Yeah, so I use a combination of that, a bonus I got from work, right before I quit, and then it was the bonus was for the year before, so it's not like I got a bonus and then just left and got paid for the work I didn't do yet. It was all work that I'd already done, and then I bought it with my girlfriend, and so she actually paid for most of it.
Okay, awesome. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about this, the 12 unit? What did
Yeah.
you guys buy it for? What are you open the rent to be? And basically, what are the value add components, if any?
So it's actually really funny how we found the deal. So it came up on the MLS. 2 properties came up on the MLS on this in a street in Pleasant Ridge, which is a neighborhood in Cincinnati. And I remember I'm emailing and texting and calling my agent to say, hey, we got to get into these properties tomorrow because I know they're going to go right away. And at the same time, my girlfriend Marcella is on my Facebook, kind of like scrolling through like mindlessly, like we all do. And she comes across, she literally sees the listings on Facebook. She's like, what is this? And she sees a person, and it's a guy named Adam, and he's listing the properties. And I know him from when I got my real estate license. He came in and gave a presentation one day randomly, and we at the time I was very very motivated, and I really wanted to be an agent and whatever. So I was like, hey man, can we get coffee? I want to pick your brain and stuff. And so I kind of hung out with him a few times. We knew each other, on a name basis. But I saw that he was listening to properties, so I called him up and it's like, hey man, my agent's not responding. I see you've got these properties listed. Can you go see them tomorrow? And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, there's actually 5 properties total. 3 of them are off market. It's like, oh, awesome. Well, can we get into all of them? He's like, yeah, sure. And so we got into all of them. Long story short, we ended up buying 3 of the fourplexes. We bought 1 of them that was on market, and we bought 2 of the off market deals. And we bought them all. So they were listed at $225. We bought them each for $220. So all-in purchase price of $660,000. We got a 25% down loan. So I think it was like around $60K down per property. And then the rents are, let's see. So it's kind of funny. And I was talking about this on Joe's Fall on Friday last week. But we got the so the initial pro forma had the rents at $2,700 per month, per unit, per property. And so there's 2 2 beds and 2 1 beds, and the one beds were listed at 600 and the two beds were listed at 750. And then we get the leases, and like none of the rents are 750 for the two beds, and none of the rents are 600 for the one bed. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So I plugged in the new numbers for the rents, and it was like around like $2,400 a month, so still $300 less than we thought it was going to be. But then once we take over the properties and people start paying their rents, we realize that the rents are way higher than the leases actually say. And so I haven't gone back and done the calculations yet, but I think the rents are actually higher than the initial $2,700. And so I've got my cash flow calculator open right here, and at the $2,700 rents, based off of our down payments, is about a 12% cash on cash return, and that's just at the current rents that we were getting when we took over the property. One of the units was vacant, and we put in a tenant just on Saturday for a one bed, and we actually got $675, and so $75 more than the highest one bedroom we're getting now. And so from I guess a business plan perspective, we don't have it completely figured out yet, because one of the buildings is really gross, and a lot of the people smoke in there, and we don't want to replace like the common area carpets, or we don't want to we don't want anyone leaving, because if someone leaves, we're not going to be able to get a new tenant in there because it just smells like smoke. We don't necessarily know what we're going to do on there. It's going to be a learning experience, because unfortunately or fortunately, depending on the way you look at it, we kind of have already have an emotional connection to one of the tenants. Like a really old guy was telling us like a story of his life, and we're like, man, it'd be so hard to kick this guy out, but he smokes a lot. If you actually look at the front of the building, they kind of have like all the units have white blinds on the windows, and you look at it and there's like top left building white blinds, top right white blinds, bottom right white blinds, and then bottom left the blinds are like a bright yellow. All the car for the cigarette smoke that's on the blinds. And so I don't necessarily know what we're gonna do about that one, but we don't have to actually update any of the units. I mean, they're still that like 1960s style with the colored tile everywhere and not necessarily updated appliances, but the area is not ready. The area is not demanding stainless steel appliances, granite countertops, things like that. And so the goal is so the goal right now is to go in there and get everyone on a new lease and raise their rents to at least 600 and at least 750. And then as people leave, we'll go in there, clean it up, and then for the one beds we're gonna do 650. The reason why the girl's playing $675 is because we have a $25 pet fee, and then we're gonna do the two beds at $825, and then as the neighborhoods get better and as it demands higher quality units, we will go in there and update them maybe in a couple of years.
Awesome. Okay, so you got this 12 unit, pretty much you've taken down this deal. I'm just kind of curious, what's next? What's next for Theo? I know you got your podcast going on your YouTube. In terms of real estate, what else?
So right now, here's my wide, big, long-term plan, and obviously it's going to change. But so right now, the goal is to every $60,000 that me and my girlfriend save up, we'll buy another property, and so that'll allow us to buy a $240,000 property at 25% down. And obviously, what we're going to do is we'll take the money we make from our jobs, and then the cash flow we get from our properties after we save for expenses and 6 months of reserves and things like that. And so again, so that'll be our $60,000. But what we actually plan on doing is taking that $60,000 and investing it into I think it's term life insurance or whole life insurance. I get the two mixed up. But we're going to invest it in the life insurance, which enables you to get a return on that money, but you can also take a loan against that plan, and the money will stay in that account. And we'll use that to buy real estate. This so we're kind of like diversified. So we've got the life insurance going, which is a 4%, I guess we'll call it a preferred return every single year, plus dividends depending on how the company performs. And so we'll make that on kind of our cash we've got sitting in there, and then we'll use that money to buy real estate, and then all the cash flow we make from that property will pay back that loan, so that we can continue to use that $60,000 initial $60,000 to just keep buying more and more properties until we can eventually scale that to I guess a full company. Because right now my girlfriend works for a corporate company, and I mean she basically doing right now what she would do as like a property manager, or like the kind of like maybe like an asset manager, the person on top of the maintenance team and the property manager, and she really likes that stuff. And so I was like, oh, perfect. Well, I'll help you get there, and then once I'm done, I'll hand it off to you, and I can kind of go do my own thing. I really like my podcast, and it's I mean,
Right.
I mean, depending on what you do, mine's actually a solo podcast, and so it's a little bit different. Like I could do this all day. I could do the interview formats all day, but I really like the solo podcast because it makes you do research on topics you want to talk about. So it takes a long time, and so I want to focus more of my time on that and kind of just I love to read, I love to learn, and not necessarily real estate related stuff like philosophy and politics and things like that. And I just realized more and more you read about it, the more you realize that you have to focus on this stuff full time. You have to read the news full time if you want to have any inkling of idea of what the hell's going on out there.
Right.
So that's kind of my long-term plan.
Nice. Wow. There's a lot going on there. That's awesome. Well, good luck and congrats on the 12 unit. That's amazing. So now we're going to go into the quick round of questions.
Perfect.
So quick questions, quick answers. So the first one is, what makes Theo Hicks unique?
What makes me unique? Well, I mean, I always hate questions like this because I'm like a very humble person. I hate talking about myself and what I'm good at. But I would say that, and it's something that people tell me a lot, is that I'm very open-minded. And I don't want to make it seem like that is a unique trait, but I think especially in this day and age, it kind of is.
Okay.
I'm definitely open-minded to all ideas and all opportunities, right? I mean, I was a chemical engineer, and then I'm doing real estate, and then I kind of started helping Joe do with his business, and then I started podcasting, and I kind of just like sampling all these different things and seeing what it is that I'm good at and what I can bring value to, and so, yeah.
What was the last book you read, and what did you like about the book?
Oh man, I read books constantly. Right now, I'm reading. I guess the book that I just finished the other day was Animal Farm by George Orwell. I'm not sure if you've heard of that before.
I know it very well.
And what was the other question? What did I learn?
What did you learn from it?
Oh man, it's a crazy book. People need to read that book too because it's very it's interesting. I guess I learned that if people tell you, or people tell you that they're trying to help you specifically, be very wary because they might just be doing it to help themselves.
Wow, that is so deep. That is so deep, Theo. I really like that. That's a good one. Last question. So, what do you, Marcella, your girlfriend, what do you guys do for fun, or what do you do for fun?
I read. I play video games.
Okay.
But I mean, honestly, most of my time is because Marcella works a lot, and so whenever she comes home from work, she's on her computer still doing stuff, and so I just really love to learn. Because I'm always on YouTube watching different YouTube videos. I'm always reading. I'm always just learning constantly. I mean, man, I probably listen to hours and hours of podcasts and YouTube videos and spend time reading per day. And so I think over time, hopefully, as I was talking about building momentum, right now it seems like I don't know anything. It seems like it's there's so much information out there, but hopefully after years and years of doing this, it pays off.
Wow. I mean, I'm not surprised that you consume great content and constantly trying to learn and relearn. It obviously shows in what you've achieved, and what you consume is basically becomes a habit. And it's good to be slaves to good habits. So Theo, I could not thank you enough. This has been an amazing chat with you. We probably have to bring you back on the show in the future. Thank you so much, Theo. I really appreciate it. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.